Don't make the same mistake I did when I first started running. It was insanely hard. Literally after just 5 minutes of it, I felt like I could barely keep going. It was the biggest mental battle to carry on beyond 5 minutes. I felt like I couldn't breathe, I was overheating, the joints feel awful, the knees, there's niggles, aches and pains literally everywhere in the body, and it just feels super difficult. And this is after just 5 minutes. So for me, after this first run, it was pretty soul destroying. But if I could get myself through a 20 or 30-minute run, which was an absolute battle, I was still completely ruined. I hated every single minute of it. And for me, if I went on Strava and I compare myself and my times to other people, to friends and things that I know on there, I was also super slow. And I actually kind of did this for years on and off, trying to get into running, and then I was out of running. So I could kind of put myself in this box and say, you know, I wasn't built for running. That's not for me. But deep down, I wanted to be good at it and I wanted to be able to do it. So although I disliked it, I knew there was people out there that absolutely enjoyed it and just reaped all of the benefits from it. And it wasn't until I learned this one thing, this one secret, that completely changed the game for me and changed everything in terms of running. And I can now say I'm a bit better and I enjoy it somewhat and I can consistently do it. And that feels amazing. And as surprising as it sounds, that one thing I needed to do was to run slower, to go faster. I was basically just going fast all of the time. I was kind of a bit task orientated, like a lot of us say we'd set a target of going out for a 5K run, and then you just do it as fast as possible, get the task done. But in actual fact, I needed to be doing my running as workouts, as more of training sessions, rather than trying to complete a 5K as fast as possible every time, or whatever distance I'd set out. What I didn't realize is this left me burning out mentally and physically and not enjoying it in the slightest. I guess I was just ignorant to the fact of training runs. I had no really understanding of training runs or training for running, and that I could run at more than one pace and more than one intensity. So I started doing a lot more running, but I actually started doing this in zone 2. Now what I mean by this is running at a heart rate that's fairly low. Cardiovascular exercise can be basically split into various heart rate zones that give you different benefits and results because you're training different systems in these different heart rate zones. Zone 1 being super easy, really comfortable, just above baseline, a bit like a walk or a really slow jog. And then 5 being an all-out sprint and a maximum type effort. And you'll see the zones here have percentages, and that's because they're worked out based on your maximum heart rate. Think of this as the top speed of your car. It's the fastest rate at which your heart can beat and pump that blood around the body. And we all have a different maximum heart rate based on age, gender, height, weight, and physical fitness. To work this out, you can either do a maximal type test where you go as hard as you can and basically find your limit for your heart rate, and you can do this in a lab, or you can do this as field testing on yourself. But if you're just getting started, there's also a predicted way you can do it. So what you do is take 220 and you minus your age from it, and then the number you get from this is your predicted maximum heart rate. And then you can use this to work out the percentages and train in those zones. So zone 2 is where the magic's at for me. This is where the secret lies for running for me, and I'll explain why that is in a minute. But if you don't have heart rate and you want to know what that sort of pace feels like, it's typically a speed that you can run at while sustaining a conversation with somebody. The theory behind this golden nugget of information is if you run at a comfortable pace, that zone 2, most of the time, it allows you to do more of it. It allows you to get more mileage in without the risk of injury or generating too much fatigue. So it's fairly easy to do, and whilst at the same time, you still get loads of benefits from it. You improve massively when it comes to your aerobic fitness. What's great about this as well is each run doesn't have to feel like it's impossibly hard and a really difficult event to accomplish. And that's what I was struggling with most when I started running. It just felt so hard all of the time, and it made me really hate it. So you don't have to be pushing into uncomfortable limits all the time like I was and making that mistake. which makes it much more enjoyable and sustainable. It's easy to be much more consistent with your training if it's not so mentally and physically tiring every time. And ultimately, I think this is why a lot of us hate running. It's because we don't realize it, but we're going out too fast, we're going too hard at it every single time, which leaves us in this place of really disliking it because it's super uncomfortable too often, and physically and mentally that's too difficult for the body and us to deal with. And something that I didn't realize is a lot of people that do running really well, they do it often, a lot of the time, the top runners or the recreational runners that just enjoy it are doing most of their training at something that's much more comfortable for them. And that's the way to really get into running and get started with running. Do it in a way that it's comfortable to start off with, build the consistency, and then that way you're gonna get faster over time and you're gonna enjoy it that much more. Now you know the secret, I really want to encourage you now to put this into practice. And remember, even if you're walking, if you're in that heart rate zone, you're still gonna reap all of the benefits, which is, absolutely awesome. Now, if you're not sure about how to use a heart rate monitor and you want to know about setup options or how to do this, then you might want to watch this video here.